A couple of things for your information. We're trying a new little experiment today. So far, I think there's only one person online. One of our ideas has been with 500 members, 400 members. How do we communicate with them when they're away? How do we communicate with them when it's cold and nobody wants to get out of bed? But we have brilliant subjects like today's, and there are other weeks too, but you know, how do we communicate with them? So we're trying today, there's a technology called Zoom, which is what's up here in the upper quadrant. If you can all see that, it says mute, stop the video, whatever. So everything I'm doing on the screen is being broadcast. For people who knew to look on our Google Calendar, there was a little link that was to the Zoom broadcast. And right now we have, I think Ed and Hunter.
Cheetah? Oh, Cheetah's there.
Cheetah's there. So we have Cheetah and we have Ed, who are watching from their home. Cheetah is in Detroit. Their group just folded or closed after many, many years. And we're just trying this to see if it works, what the logistics are, so forth and so on. I'm going to turn our sound down so that we don't hear their noise, because apparently their mics are on, which I didn't realize. Let me see if I can mute. I don't know how to do this. Eckert knows how to do this better. Yeah, and that was with the other system. Anyway, so we're doing that. That's what all this is up here, and we'll see how it works. The other thing I wanted to do by way of follow on to I forgot his name now. Wayne's presentation last week was talk about home automation, just for an example. And what I'd like to do is just briefly show you a quick real life example. Some of you know that we just moved to a new home, a new condo in La Mirada, and La Mirada offers a smart house. And smart house takes a little bit of time to get it to be understood. But smart house, this is my the screenshot there is my iPhone, which is in my hand. And I don't want to show you my setup. I want to show you. I shouldn't have whacked it, I guess. It uses Alexa. It uses the Echo devices in the home to coordinate all the other devices in the house. So as an example, you can add, now this is real time on my home in La Mirada, which is just up north. You can add devices. You see here, it says add device. And after you add the devices, then you have the various devices around your home. So here are my Echoes. I have now 4 Echoes. The Echoes are in my kitchen. I have 2, one of the views. I have one in my office and one in the sitting room. So I have 4 Echoes. And then you can control your lights, your switches, your thermostats, simply, and your stereo, of course, simply by telling it. For example, if you're in the sitting room and you want to turn off these lights, you just tell Alexa, turn off the lights, and the lights would go off in the sitting room. Or you could say, I want to turn off all the lights upstairs. So the 3 lights, the kitchen, the office, and the sitting room, and the other bedroom would all go off. So it's very interesting. And Sonos the speaker system. You can define 3 speakers. In my home, I have 3. And once you define what they are, you just call it Sonos. And you say, turn on the music in Sonos. And it plays the music in all 3 places at the same time. So I just wanted to follow up on what he said the other day. It's quite interesting. It's a big learning curve. I spent a lot of energy on how to make those things work the way I just described them. But I thought I just show you that.
Marty?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mitch.
Yeah, please identify yourselves for the speaker here.
Yeah, Mitch. I have a friend that's really into this, and all his stuff is on is compatible with HomeKit. He doesn't use
Yeah.
He doesn't use
Amazon.
the Amazon stuff. He uses Siri to do everything. Siri,
Yeah.
turn on the kitchen lights. Siri, turn on the lights here.
Yep.
Siri, turn on Sonos. Is there a reason you haven't gone that route?
The developer put in Amazon and paid for Amazon to come into my house and put all these gizmos in the wall. You know,
Okay,
do all
I'm
that.
just curious.
So yeah, it's not anything I did. It's what they did.
Yeah.
There are some advantages for using Alexa and using Amazon, because I bet you everybody in the room has at least one in their house right now. Show of hands. No echoes at all. None of those little black boxes. Oh, really? You must have some. I'm astonished.
I've got one I bought and put in the closet immediately.
Oh, well, if you don't want it, give it to me. It's $100. I mean, you know, I need more of them.
Yeah, bring it to Marty.
Well, the sale's on right now for.
Yeah, that's like 29 now, the smallest.
Apple's things in it, and they can be on this right now. They've already upgraded.
Yeah. The problem with Apple is they wait too long. It's like the speaker is too long, you know, and I don't know. I love Apple, obviously, that's why I'm here, but I think Amazon they got these things everywhere. They're putting them in doctor's offices. They're putting them for free everywhere. It's the AOL model. All right, let's get on to Q&A here and then some time machine stuff. I'm sorry, was there another question? Go ahead, sorry.
Your house was pre-wired for the Amazon. So if you don't have a pre-wired house, you have to buy because I know like going in Costco, they have the plugs, adapters, and I've seen them on Amazon. So you have to get your lights, for example, to turn on and off. You have to have a special plug adapter.
Plug adapters, or in the kitchen, for example, we have a Lutron, which Wayne showed the other day, little thing that replaces your wall switch. So you have those things. Yeah, it's an investment.
Do you have to get the light bulbs that work as well?
No.
Just the plugs?
Plugs or wall switches. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But I mean, each one of those is a decision. Do I want last night my wife was saying, can I ask Alexa to turn off the fan? Well, we have to go buy one of those little gizmos that controls the fan. You know, they're $80, $60, 60, $80, you know. Yeah. Compared to a $3 socket, you know, $3 socket, $60, so you don't have to get up and push a button. Yeah. I have a couple of questions were sent to me. Let me deal with the questions that were sent first. When they're on the screen here, and of course I post these things, I'll post them on the website as well. My iPhone has developed a habit of zooming in on my desktop. I'm unable to move around on the desktop. My only option is to shut it down completely and restart. Any idea how to stop it? This is a very common problem. It's happened to me. That's why I know the answer. Because all of a sudden you'll be sitting there and the whole screen will be, you know, like a million pixels high. So everything is in settings. I think I've told you that about 1 billion times, right? Everything is in settings. So you go to settings, general, accessibility, zoom, and be sure it's off. All right? Settings, general, accessibility, zoom, and be sure it's off. And then the things on the next page have to be off, because there'll be a magnifier and then the handoff, because sometimes you're doing this and you can transfer that, whatever you're doing to your other devices. So I turn off handoff unless I want it to be on. And handoff lets me do things on my phone and then plug into my, do them simultaneously or pick them up on my iMac or on my iPad. So turn off general accessibility Zoom. Again, this will be on the website, so you can go find it. The other question that came in was about photos. And I probably should defer this to Marilyn for the right answer. This is my version of the right answer. Photos are duplicating. Marianne sent me this, and she says, I use iCloud for iPhone, iPad, and Mac. And every once in a while, I look in all photos and find that some really old ones have 3 or 4 copies. Is there a way to prevent this? She doesn't plug her devices in or anything, so it's through the cloud. She's making storage in the cloud, and then the duplicates happen. For me, this happens it's happened to me several times, and I think it's because of very small differences. And I'll show you an example of this in a minute. If you put a dash somehow in the name of the photo, or if you have you're scrolling through and you make a change on a keyword or a location or something, the computer will think that's a new file. It'll think that it's a new that it's not a duplicate anymore. So it'll make 2 of them. So there are many cases where I have 2. What I do to minimize that is I don't upload from my Mac to iCloud. I only store from my iPhone and from my iPad to iCloud. And the reason for that is twofold. One, I have 50,000 pictures on my Mac. I don't need those all on my iPhone to show people. They're not interested in when I was a baby or when my wife was a baby or my first dog 45 years ago, any of that. So I don't upload from my Mac. I only upload these devices to the cloud. And then I make sure that I download into my Mac the things that I have in the cloud. So I keep them sort of separate. These 2 devices upload to the cloud. The other devices then just, then on the Mac, I download what I want. And that sort of tends to minimize the number of problems that you have.
Marty?
Marilyn, go ahead, add to it. And speak up for the mic, please.
Okay, basically, when you are putting photos in from a camera or other than your phone and your iPad, you usually plug it directly into the Mac, and it will let you select the photos that you want to go in. Now, something new in iOS 12, which I'm going to talk about at our meeting, if you have iCloud Photo Library, which I recommend, and you have let me go back. If you are downloading into your iPad and your iPhone from a camera or from an SD card or something like that, it now will let you select the photos that go in there, plus it will check for duplicates. So it'll warn you if the photo is a duplicate. So that's something new. So that if you're loading into your iPad or your iPhone, and you would be previously loading duplicates in, that will no longer be necessary because you can stop it. And then if you're going through iCloud Photo Library, when it gets to your Mac, it will not be a duplicate. And I think I agree with Marty that sometimes if you do something with a photo, like if you do any kind of editing or you move it into a different album and or a different event or something like that, sometimes it'll show up in 2 different places. But if it's next to each other, it's probably you have done something to one of the photos that makes it different. But I think Apple has pretty much been able to keep duplicates from going in there at this point. But previously that was not the case. So old photos, you may still see duplicates.
Yeah, still on the importing side, that duplicate checker works very well. I've used that. Somehow I've lost my my little notey thing somewhere. There you go. Okay, so are there other questions in the audience? Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm Bob.
Bob?
My wife is about to get a new iPhone, and it's debating how much memory she needs. She right now has like 64 gigs on the phone that she lost. And then everything has been uploaded to the cloud, and some are doing here, but if she optimizes the phone photo storage, she won't need as much. Both of us are care about this optimizing photo storage. I looked on my phone and it said there's a little check mark after optimized iPhone storage, but I can't undo the check mark, which is there.
How many people are in this room? 60? 65 maybe? I think there are 120 answers for that question, because every one of us is going to give you two. I'll tell you my rule of thumb. I look at what I have on my phone now, and I ask myself how many times I've gotten that silly little, you're running out of storage and you have to do something. So if you have 64 and you're not running out of storage and you're not about to do something dramatically different, I'd say stay with 64. The other side of me says, always buy as much memory as you can afford, because you're always going to run out. It just depends on when. So I don't know. Anybody else have an opinion? Marilyn, please.
I would leave optimized storage on there.
Oh, yeah.
If you take it off, then you're going to be keeping those photos on your phone. And if you have iCloud Photo Library, you can go into the settings for that, and you can tell it to put the full version on your computer if you have a lot of space on your computer. So you will still have access on your computer to the full version, and you will also have it in the cloud, the full resolution photos. So my advice would be to don't try to move that check mark, leave it there. We'll talk a little bit about that too. But as far as Marty says, it's a personal decision. Personally, I would go one step higher at least. You know, things happen in each new update of the operating systems, and there's more things that you can do with all the different apps, and then you might be putting third-party apps in there. I mean, if she can afford it, I would say 64 is minimal. But that's just my personal opinion. What it does is, when you see the pictures on your phone, you're not seeing the full resolution picture. You're just seeing a lower resolution picture. But if you download the pictures to your phone, they would be in full resolution because they aren't that way in flat.
Go ahead, question.
I may be preempting your question, or your workshop next week.
Please do.
Or volunteer to teach it.
My photos thing. Under upload burst photos, it says, mine is off right now, but it says underneath, only photo burst, only favorite burst photos will be uploaded to your photos. I have found that sometimes I'm ending up taking burst photos and I didn't need to. So I'll have like 5 or 6 pictures, you know, we're talking about duplicates. So if I don't have that turned on, does that mean all of those burst photos go up into, or do I?
You don't have it turned on, you can't do it.
No.
I can't do that.
If it's unchecked, they're not uploaded.
They're not uploaded.
Right.
And if I have it checked, then
Then they are.
one gets uploaded?
No, the burst photo gets uploaded. All, yeah, if you take 100 in a burst, the 100 get uploaded as a burst.
But we can show you easily how to fix that and how to get rid of the burst you don't want.
So we're gonna get that Saturday.
The 16th.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not this Saturday, it's next Saturday. We're skipping a week. Okay, other questions?
Thank you.
iTunes question.
No.
I bought some years ago a CD series of Spanish lessons, and I have downloaded that successfully onto iTunes on my computer, and I can play it and listen. But I wanted to be on my other devices, and I cannot. It doesn't come down. It doesn't, even though sharing is on. I don't know what.
You need iTunes Match.
Yeah, it might be iTunes Match. It might be digital rights management. It might be a DRM problem, where they let you put it on your computer and not then transfer it somewhere else, because they think you're making an illegal copy. So I don't know the answer to that, but it might be one of those two. iTunes Match lets you share among your devices, right? For $30 a year, 25 a year. Yeah.
I have that.
Bill, you might want to check with, Jim's not here today, is he?
Jim's right here. Yeah, Jim.
Oh, you are here.
Jim, what's the answer?
Bill, if you want it on your iPhone, I would use a cable connection with your iTunes to transfer the information. Is it in the playlist? Did you put the language lessons in a playlist on your iPad?
Well, it's a series of lessons, and they light up on my playlist or on my computer, just as you would see the movie, music.
Uh-huh.
But it's not in a playlist. No.
Okay, I would put them in a playlist first, and then connect your iPhone via cable to your laptop or your desktop. And when the iPhone menu shows up on your home computer, make sure that playlist is checked. I always have more success transferring playlists from my computer to my iPhone or iPad with a hardwired connection than I do, even though I've got Wi-Fi checked. I always have more success with cable.
Okay.
Okay, one more question, then we'll move on. Linda.
Linda, whenever I try to upgrade to Mojave, my whole system crashes and burns. And last time I was with one, they said maybe I need to take the computer to the Apple store and have something done with the hardware. So I haven't upgraded to Mojave yet because I'm still working on my taxes.
Yeah, I would do that. They help me, so I would say that's probably the right.
Yeah, because basically all the times they have to reinstall Sierra.
Yeah. That's what I would do. That was what I ran into as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about time machine. Time machine is one of those things on my list of what I see people do, and I'm always wondering why. And I had an example recently. I have some slides here because it was really hard to capture. So I'll show you the slides, but then I'll show you in real time as well. How legible is that? Not very, huh? Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. I guess you can't do that with a slide. Maybe you can. All right, so I'll show you real time as well, but these will be in the notes and you can see it more clearly. Everybody knows Time Machine, right? You all have how many of you use Time Machine now? How many of you don't use Time Machine at all? Really? Okay. So I don't know how I would live without Time Machine, honestly, because things happen and you always want to recover files and you can't do it sometimes without Time Machine. And Time Machine is so easy. I don't know why computer people didn't discover it or develop it like 30 years ago. It would have saved us all a lot of work. So in Time Machine's up here in this little circle with a clock in the middle of it, right? And that Time Machine, when you open it, gives you some choices. Shows you the last backup, which drive it went to. In my case, old Mac, which is this big one sitting in front of me here. And it was done at 11:42 today. So I plugged in, it sat down, and it started recording. It started backing up. And then I can enter Time Machine or I can open Time Machine preferences, and I'll come back to that later. But entering Time Machine is what's on the screen now. So if I were on my desktop and I wanted to find something that should have been on my desktop and wasn't, it was there a while ago. So what I've done here is indicate, here's desktop, here's the file I wanted to find, and then when I enter Time Machine, it gives you this space age look of your desktop. It's looking back in time, so that's what all these pages are, page after page after page. How many of you have seen this page before? Okay, about half the people who have Time Machine have never looked at this before. That's really good or really bad. It's really good because you've never had to look for something. It's really bad because you probably don't know how, or may not know how, or something. So when you scroll it, on the right side here, it gives you the date. So I've scrolled back to February 24th at 12:11 a.m. And I could also do it by scrolling the Time Machine, the timeline on the right side here. So I could do it that way. You see the little red line right there? That red line is February 24th at 12:11 a.m. And it shows me this file, exported notes.rtf. It's a text file, right? So then what I did was I went back and said, okay, I want you to, these are a little bit out of order, sorry. I want to restore that. And down here, it says restore. And I would just touch that restore button, and lo and behold, it gets restored to present day. And then on my desktop here, it says notes that were exported notes. The file is sitting right there. So let me just talk about that a little bit. You plug in an external hard drive. You can unplug it when you have to move it, right? So what I did with these, we have on the club computer, I have two Time Machine drives, right? I unplugged them when I left my home, put them in the bag, rolled them over here, plugged them back in. And as long as you do that correctly, you don't damage the drives. Everybody knows how to eject the drive. Anybody who doesn't know how to eject the drive?
No, we've had trouble with it.
You cannot just pull these things out. You see where I have these little cordy things here? You cannot just do that because the computer needs to tell the drive to shut down. All right? Do not just do that. And the way you do it is, like this drive is over here, right? Here's the old Mac drive. If you press Control, click, or two fingers, eject only old Mac drive. So I would eject that drive. I'm not going to do it because then I can't demonstrate my other demonstration. But you want to always eject the drive, not just unplug it. Got it? Control, click the drive.
And wait until it disappeared from the screen.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, that's, you know, if you click it and it doesn't do anything, then you're not clicking right, okay?
Is that any different than dragging it to the trash?
No, same thing, drag it to the trash.
You can also do it in the sidebar, right?
You can do it in Finder too, sure. Yeah, if you go to Finder, you get the same, you get the little eject button, thank you. That's why this is from many to many. Sometimes, you know, doesn't work.
Marty, if you don't do that and the drive is not being used, if you plug in a drive, it's not being used for anything right now because it's not gonna, like for Super Duper, it's not gonna back up tonight until 9 o'clock. If you just pull that plug out and it's not being used, is it causing any damage?
Maybe.
Why?
Because it might be doing something that you don't know it's doing. Sometimes computers work in the background and they do things that you don't know they're doing.
Okay.
You know, it might be organizing files or cleaning up trash or doing, you know, getting rid of the old one when it says get rid of the old, you know, it's deleting an old Time Machine. It'll do that in the background even though it's not blinking or whatever, you know. Jim?
I think the proof of that, Marty, is that every time you pull a cable out without doing that, you get another.
Yeah. And I'm amazed people don't do that with the USBs too. There's the little flash drives. Same problem. You have to let it shut down. You have to eject it. All right, so go ahead.
If you have my Quicken is corrupted, but I know it was good at a certain date, can I bring it back in 3 minutes somehow?
You can bring it back either by restoring or using Quickens Restore. I would use the Quicken Restore rather than
Because I have it, but it's on that.
yeah. I would use Quicken to restore it rather than Time Machine. All right, so set up Time Machine. You pick the drive. I'm just going to do this because some people don't use it, right? It says Open Time Machine Preferences. Set up Time Machine. Pick the drive, right? And when you pick the drive, you have a choice here. I have my Passport Essential, which is a little one. I have my old Mac 500, which is this big one. By the way, old Mac 500 means it's the 500 gigabyte drive from my old Mac, which I didn't want to give to somebody else. I just took the drive out, made it a hard drive, put a little case on it, and I use it as an external hard drive. So I do that with all my hard drives, rather than giving them to somebody and worrying about the content, right? So you pick your drives. When you add 2 drives, it says, do you want to use in place of, or do you want to use them both? So then you use them both. And what this does is it rotates. So you see here, it says yesterday, this backed up at 9:35 p.m., today at 10:42 a.m., and this drive, 8:05 p.m., and then 11:42 a.m. So it'll go first hour, second hour, first hour, second hour. If you have 3 drives, it goes first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so forth and so on, right? So you can use as many Time Machine drives as your heart makes you happy. Then down here it said, and show Time Machine in the menu bar, put it up in the menu bar, and back up automatically. Yes, you want it to back up automatically. You don't want to have to keep remembering to do it, right? And then options. Options are things to be excluded. Now, I don't want Time Machine to back up the 2 hard drives that I have here, right? So I exclude those. I don't want it to back up my shared drives and my personal folders, so I exclude those. And then I just say save. The other thing down here, backup while on battery power, and notify when old backups are deleted. You don't have to do that, but if you don't do that and something weird's going on, you won't know it. So what I mean by weird, let's say the drive is failing, like I had one fail on my Mac at home. It was constantly telling me that I was running out of space, but I knew I wasn't running out of space because I only had one thing being backed up to it and it was very limited. So if I didn't get that notice, I wouldn't have been able to know that something strange was going on, right? A drive shouldn't have old backups being deleted, except maybe once a week or once every month, depends on how far down the chain you are. So you should get those both notices. And they're just little notice things and you say, yeah, go away, right? And then show the Time Machine. All right, so that's the setup part of this. Everybody clear? Any questions on setup before I move on? Please.
There's a way to encrypt the hard drive when you first start using it.
Mhm.
And I find that very comforting to know that it's encrypted. And if I lose it or it's stolen, it can't be broken into.
Yeah, if you go to system preferences, it's outside the Time Machine discussion, but you can do that in system preferences in File Vault. You make your hard drive encrypted, then Time Machine encrypts it and copies it as an encrypted file. It's very good to do that. Jim.
Am I correct that Time Machine only makes a time-coded copy of the native hard drive on the laptop or desktop, or laptop or desktop computer?
I don't know what you mean.
It's only, okay. About 2 years ago, I uploaded my entire iTunes library to an external hard drive. And recently I had a reason to go back and find the previous playlist. And when I went into Time Machine, I couldn't find it. And I realized that Time Machine only copies the hard drive on your computer.
I don't think it's limited to that.
Okay, so then my question would be, when you're adding your devices like that, can you add an external hard drive?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, wait a
I think
second.
so, but you're limited by capacity, right? If you have a terabyte on this machine, and you know, these are, in this case, this is 256, and these are each 500. If I had an external hard drive that was 500, I'd run out of space quickly if this were filled. Right?
Right.
Bob,
It does show up on your options list, and it was copied. It does not show up on your options list anymore.
yeah, the answer, the question was, can I do that with an external hard drive? My answer was, I think so. Bob's comment was, as long as it shows up on that options list when you're selecting the drives. Jerry.
I think that's, you probably check the exclude the.
Oh.
I missed the answer. You.
Yeah.
The option is the exclude. Probably exclude.
Oh, right. The comment was, if you exclude the external hard drive, it doesn't copy. And that's generally true. That's what I do. I exclude the other ones. All right, so.
But in Jim's case, you wanted to include. Right?
You wanted to include, right? Now, I made some other notes here. Check the disk every once in a while, because you want to be sure the files are there, right? And you want to be sure the sequence is being done right. Now, how do you check the sequence? It's really Mac 101, right? This is a drive. So I go to my Finder. I go down here to find old Mac, and old Mac 500 says backup.backupdb, which is the database. And it says I'm backing up my MacBook Pro. And then here are the times for all these files. So this is March 5th at 10:05 in the evening. Here's March 5th at 11:10 in the evening, so forth and so on. Each of these are date code and time coded things, right? So here's the last one. It shows my Macintosh, shows all the things in my Macintosh, because I'm backing up the whole drive. I didn't exclude any of this other system stuff. Some people do, some people don't. And here are all the people who are users of this device. I'll use this one as an example. Here are all the things in the account that I'm in that are being backed up to my external hard drive. And here are the documents. And if we go through and look at the downloads, here are the downloads, and so forth and so on. Here are the pictures. So just occasionally look at it. Why do I say occasionally look at it? Well, here I know that it's going time by time, hour by hour. Everybody knows Time Machine backs up hour, week, month, until it runs out of space, right? So it will record a full day, hour by hour, days for a week, and then weeks for a month, and then months after time, right? And of course, I've only been doing this a few days, so it doesn't go back to weeks and months. But it should be consistent. So look at it occasionally. It doesn't hurt to do it. Don't touch anything. Don't erase anything. Don't think you can drag it and pull it back there. Just look at it. Okay? Is that clear? Don't.
When you showed us
Sorry.
hard drives, they were in the last 10% full.
They were in the what?
They're 90% full.
I doubt that. Well, it could be.
But I was surprised at that. It's only done 3 months.
I've only done it for a day. Right? But we have a lot of stuff on this machine. Remember what I'm backing up. I'm backing up.
I thought you were showing.
I'm backing up.
The old Mac, isn't that what that says?
Yeah, old Mac 500. Yeah.
When you showed us before, do Command-I on the old Mac.
No, sorry. I'm on the, you want me to be here. I have 540 gigabytes available out of 640. So I've only used 99. So I have most of it empty, not most of it full. Right? 540 is available. Yeah, I mean, they're both brand new, you
Is
know.
the other way around? I misread it, okay.
All right, so look at it occasionally. It won't hurt if you don't do anything. Now, let's talk about recover, right? How do you recover? You navigate to where the file is, you click time machine and enter time machine, and then you scroll back in time, and then you recover. And I want to show you that because I think it's the coolest thing. Let's go to my desktop. I'll just go to desktop. So this is my desktop, right? Where we are right this minute. Now I want to go back and look at time machine. So I want to enter time machine. Here we go, back in time. Now again, I'm only going to have these few hours, right? So I'm not looking back to last December or whatever. But let's say I wanted to go back to yesterday, because I know on my desktop yesterday, I had an image, or yeah, let's do an image here. Let's do one of these screenshots. Let me come back in a minute. Sorry, I want to pick something that's not here. Now I have something missing. So enter time machine. I'm going to scroll back in time to yesterday. Where are my pictures? Oh, no, no. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble here because suddenly it's not showing me what I want it to show. Yeah, so I went back to this morning. Let me just keep going here, see if I can get the pictures. So let's say I wanted to recover these two pictures. I would simply select them, and you see once I select them, this restore box came active, and I would say restore those pictures, and in a space age animation, it now puts them back where they were on my desktop. And for those of you who haven't ever seen it, this is the little bit of Naples geography here. This is the pipe organ at the Presbyterian Church up on Immokalee. Spectacular, just spectacular. They're doing piano concerts there on the Grandmaster series. So if you haven't done that, go find out about Grandmasters. It's really excellent, really excellent.
It wasn't JPEG, it was different.
Yeah, that's HEIC. That's the new format from Apple. That's how Apple is now putting
That's
what the storage format is for.
We're going to talk about that at our meeting.
Yeah, Marilyn talks about it. And this, for those of you who haven't ever seen Portrait, this was a student of mine who was sitting in the classroom with students all around him, and a very happy guy. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't mind. I'm sure he doesn't mind my using his photo. But this was the portrait mode. All I did was take my iPhone, focus on him, and put it in portrait mode, and snap that picture of him. Is that cool? How many of you use portrait mode? Yeah, Marilyn's going to talk about that. It's just Apple's just doing these brilliant things. Anyway, so that's how you recover what you had missed from months ago. You can go find it and restore it back to your desktop or wherever you are. You can do that inside folders. You know, if you know you're missing something, you can go find it and do that. There's a question here. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I realized yesterday that in photos, I had somehow lost a bunch of pictures that were in that particular folder in photos. Can I get back to a specific folder? I got all the different dogs I've had. I've got all their pictures by their name. One of them is all the pictures are gone. How can I find my way to that particular folder in photos?
Marilyn, do you know?
Is he talking about Time Machine?
Yeah, I think he's asking how do you recover photos? Does photos work in Time Machine?
I don't know.
I think it does, but you have to. It's a little careful because photos is not stored. Let me show you where photos is stored.
Oh, and it has its own library.
Yeah, photos is stored. It stores it in its own library, right? And that's why I say you got to be careful. This is the photos library, right? So when you click photos on your machine, you'll have photos in that folder maybe, and then you'll have the photos library. And photos library, you can't click the photos library because it'll open in photos. But what you want to do is go back and find a prior version of the library, right? If you do an option click, and that library has been recorded, option click or control click? Must be option click, right?
You want to open the contents?
Yeah, I want to open it in a different library.
Option click opens the library.
Option, but option click's not open in my library.
You want to just open the contents?
Yeah, I can do that, right? Because if you control click, sorry.
Have you
If you
named
control
the dog?
click-
Have you named the picture?
Yeah, it's sort of a folder like.
Yeah, but I mean, have you said, do you have a name on the picture?
Not all, no.
Okay, because you can search by keywords and you can search by names, but,
So it doesn't keep the pictures for what I thought was a folder, keeps all those pictures together. I guess it doesn't keep them together.
now, is this in the library or is this in your
It's
pictures?
photo library.
Okay. Because sometimes things will go into the pictures folder and not into the library.
I could check that.
So
That would seem like an important element of Time Machine, though, that you should be able to go back to if you had a group of folks.
yeah, the risk is you can screw up your library.
I think the answer is.
When I teach the photos classes, I encourage people not to do what I'm showing you. And the reason is you can really screw it up. And I know that from personal experience. I've gone in and messed around and then it loses registration, right? So let me show you what I'm telling you not to do. And maybe if you have more questions, we can do it offline. But in the pictures folder, the pictures library is just is what they call package. And a package is a bunch of things that are organized together, and then the program operates on those things together, all right? So all your pictures in your photos library, what I'm looking at here is the photos library for this account, right? All your pictures are organized this way, but the masters are organized by year and by, these various numbers and things. And then you get to what's in that folder. You can then operate on Time Machine. So if you have a label somewhere where you know that it was 2013 or 2015 or something, you can go back in time you can operate on this just as if it's a time machine folder. Now, what I've done here is I'm looking at that particular folder, but I can go back and look at it, you know, a week ago or a month ago or whatever. So it takes a little bit of, you have to restore this way. You can't pull it out or do, you know, you can't make a copy of this and pull it out because it'll screw up photos.
They're not grouped together.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to do that.
And you said you're in a folder. You mean you're in an event, because you don't really have folders on your photos.
Yeah, well,
You have
if they're
albums, and you have events.
Yeah. In photos, you can further break it down by the specific items. Let's say you made a trip to Ireland, a trip to Spain, a trip to Germany, and so on. You can put the pictures for those specific locations in that, I call them folders, believe it or not folders. They're albums.
All right, I'll try to figure out an answer to this and post it separately.
I'll send you a picture of what I'm talking
One of the things that you might want to check is there is an album if you're updated with your Photos app, there's an album called Events,
Yeah.
which is moved from the previous Photos app. And you might look in there because, well, a lot of the older photos you have from your previous events in the previous Photos app, it might go in there. So check that out in photo events and see if you see it in
that
there.
would work, but if I go to Germany every third week, and I took a picture and I wanted all of them in Germany, I don't know if there are any place where they're consolidated.
You can make an album. We'll show you how to do that if you come to the class.
Okay, John, you had a question?
When I go to a particular website, troll through that, I quite often want to take a screenshot of something I like. Now, my problem, I don't know where that goes. It comes on, I direct it to my desktop, and it comes up in the bottom right-hand corner for like 8 or 9, 10 seconds. And then it disappears. And I'm having a hell of a job trying to find out where it goes.
Screenshots go normally they go to downloads.
Yeah.
Unless you told Dropbox to accept them in Dropbox or OneDrive to accept them in OneDrive, or, you know, there's some of those peripheral things ask you if you want screenshots to go there, and then they
I direct it to the desktop.
you direct it to the desktop.
Yeah, but it
So then they should appear on your desktop.
comes, but only for 10 seconds, and then it goes somewhere else.
Say it again, Jerry, sorry.
Option shift 5, there's up the place where you select where it's going to go, and how long it's going to, whether or not it's going to show it as before you start.
The option,
Do option shift 5.
option shift from.
Yeah, sorry. Option shift 5. So option shift 5.
In Finder.
Oh, in Finder, sorry. Option shift 5. So I'm in Finder and I don't see where you tell me where to go. Option shift 5.
You should be getting a window where you can hit what you're going to do. It's part of the hobby.
Oh, okay. Well,
Wouldn't you just do it on the screen rather than in Finder?
Yeah, I don't know. He said go to Finder, that's why I did that. Let's do it here. Option shift 5.
Option shift 4.
Well, let's do the ones I know. I know that I can do option shift 3 and make a copy of my screenshot, right? Well, I know the problem is we're recording this and it may be interfering with that because it's not giving me any of my
Try option shift 5.
on a regular computer, on your computer. Try it. Is it working for you? Option Shift 5?
Is that forward you want to go to? Let's say you want to go to preview, so you can edit before it goes.
Okay,
There it is.
There it is.
Oh, I don't know why. Oh, I'm sorry. I did Command Shift 5.
Oh, sorry.
Command Shift 5.
Command Shift 5.
All right, so Command Shift 5 says capture the screen, capture selected window, capture portion, record the entire screen, record it, and then options says save to desktop, documents, clipboard, mail. Ah, very interesting. So I could capture this, Command Shift 5, yeah, and then you get out of it by escaping. Learn something new every day. All right, so let's fix this here so we don't publish the wrong thing. Command Shift 5. And then you get the options.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, it's 12 whatever, 12:30. John?
When you, is there any downside, like we shut this thing down and the time machine is working, so it shuts down? Will it come back to the same place? Are
Yep.
you doing any damage to it?
No. No, you can shut it down, you let it go to sleep, do whatever you want, and it picks back up when you want to wake up. Yep.
So, if I have a time machine on my iPad here, and I go home next month, I will have the same time machine at home on my home iPad.
No,
So,
it's not a cloud. Sorry, you have the program on both. It's not cloud-based.
okay.
No. But you can store stuff in the cloud. You know, whatever you need in Delaware, or whatever, Michigan.
You use time machine, set it up on both machines.
Yeah, but the problem is it looks for this index to know that it's indexing from here. And if I plug it in a different machine, it will not read that.
Well, doesn't Jerry, wasn't he doing that for years?
He used Super Duper.
Oh, super duper.
But what I do is I put, I mean, one of the other things that's noteworthy here is my iCloud has my desktop and my documents, right? So you make that selection, and when you're picking iCloud here, and you look at iCloud Drive, you make the selection to include your desktop and documents folders, right? So once you make that selection here, then your documents are in the cloud and you can get them from anywhere. So my entire desktop at home is available to me here. So whenever I need it, I just use it. Or if I'm on any computer, I can sign on to iCloud.com, look at my desktop and look at every document folder that's on my Mac at home. So I don't worry about taking my backup with me or whatever. I put everything in the cloud and it's accessible. Marilyn.
You can also do that between your devices. If you don't want to do all your documents and all your desktop. In fact, this morning, I have some time after this meeting before I have to pick up my husband, and I'm working on the slides for the photos class. And so I have a keynote on my desktop at home, and I want to work on it here on my iPad. So I just moved that file into iCloud Drive.
Sure.
And then when I get ready to do it on my iPad, I just go to that little file icon, which is basically iCloud Drive and other things. And I look for that particular file and open it on my iPad, and I can work on it. And then if I want to work on, when I get home back on my computer, I can just move it out of iCloud Drive back onto my computer. So that comes very handy if you just have a few things that you want to do instead of needing to know your entire documents content.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing here, right? My presentation is on the desktop here. This is the to-do list and the how do I do these things? And the Naples Mug presentation is this presentation that I'm typing in as we speak. That's in the cloud. And when I get home, I open it up, or if I go to somewhere, I open that up and it's available to me and it's current. I made all those changes and it's just in the cloud. So what Marilyn's talking about is doing that like I did here. The other side of it is you take all your files and you make them available on in the cloud, and then you have them available anywhere. So, do it, Linda.
Because I'm moving my laptop around all the time, I just sort of plug in my external hard drive's passport, WG passport. This is when I need to do the backup. If I have it, then time machine reminds me I need to do it. I just have two quick questions. And is it okay to work on other stuff while it's doing the backup?
Sure.
Okay, and then the other one, sometimes it'll say preparing for backup, like forever. And then when it finally is ready to do the backup, it says it's going to be 3 hours. And then all of a sudden it's done like in a half an hour.
Yep. So?
Why?
Don't worry about it. It's thinking.
Sometimes it never gets to it. There was one time, and basically I called Apple and I said, just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, don't call Apple. I mean, call it. They're very good. I'm just kidding. But don't worry about stuff that you don't worry. It's preparing. So let it prepare. It's organizing the files. It's organizing the space. It's doing whatever it has to do to make it work. Don't worry. I mean, if it does it for 3 days, then worry. It means your hard drive is failing and you should get another hard drive.
Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Right.
So Marty, you're saying backup will
Don't worry about stuff like that.
Marty will send you a list of things to worry.
I have a list of things to worry about. Other questions? Go ahead.
If you have one external hard drive that, for whatever reason, you stopped using, it's defective, it's full, whatever, and you put a new external hard drive on, what does that then fill itself with? It's not going to duplicate what you had.
It's going to start over again and it'll back up.
As the computer is at that moment.
Yep. That's why I always have two. Because these things fail. I was just telling George, I had the drive that I had replaced the drive that failed. And it was like within a month. It just happens. So if you have two, then you always have a copy of what you need. If this one fails, you got this one. Put a new one in, then you have two copies again. Do it. Always have two.
Marty, I didn't know that you could have more than one.
Yeah, Jerry taught me that about 2 years ago. So
I will, when I go home, set up the second drive. But is it possible to designate, I have my photos going to cloud, but I would like to also have my photos downloaded to an external hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to designate just one thing, like all of your in-time machine? Other than having two machines backing up, can you have a machine designated for like photos to back up?
Yeah, I don't do that with Time Machine because I don't know how to do that. I do that with another program because all my movies and all my photos and all my music are on external drives. Like Jim does it with music, I do it with movies and photos. And I use a separate program to back those up independently of.
So is it like a separate app, or is it?
Yeah, it's an app. It's an app that the one that I liked. I used for years is called Backup, BACKUP. It's an Apple program. I don't think they make it anymore. I'm not sure if it's in the App Store actually. Is it? Say it again. They dropped it, huh?
You're still using it?
Yeah, I still use it because it's so slick. But the one I use now is called Intego. I'm just looking to see if backup is here. Yeah, here's backup. See this little guy right here? Backup. I don't know why it's still on this machine actually, because this isn't my personal machine. But backup was a very nice little program, as Jerry said. I guess it's a precursor to Time Machine. I use now a program called Intego, I-N-T-E-G-O. They try to sell you the suite, which I bought because it has antivirus and a number of other things in it. But it has a very good, what's called personal backup. And it lets you pick things that you want to back up and put them on a different place. And it lets you do it on a schedule like Time Machine works. So I use that for my drive-to-drive backups. I-N-T-E-G-O.
Will you put that in my notes?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
One comment on that. Super Duper can be used to act like hard drive to hard drive.
Yeah.
That'll all be covered also in the security class backup.
Marty, I think there's a program sold by Apple called Apple Match, which puts it in 2 places.
Apple Match? I don't know that.
$20 a year.
Well, that's the music,
That's just music.
the videos and the,
Or photos, I know it does photos.
Really? I have Match. It's but it's used for music.
Right.
And what it does is it takes my music from it takes all the music in my Mac at Home, which is a store. It looks at what it is and then basically points to it in their store. And then when I sign on with my iPhone or my iPad, then it's available to me. So I have 11,000 songs on my iTunes, and I have 11,000 songs here, even though they're not here. They're all downloaded, and they can be streamed.
So Marty, the backup program that you're using for individual files, how does that differ from Super Duper? Super Duper has backup.
I don't know. Maybe Jerry knows. I don't use Super Duper, so I can't tell you. You want to comment, Jerry? How does Intego or backup? How does Intego or backup differ from Super Duper?
I don't know Intego, but Super Duper is a program that you can schedule to run at a certain time, and you just on that schedule you just define which hard drive and which hard drive, and it makes it an exact copy. So I use Super Duper for at least 15 years. It's still another backup concept. I use Super Duper and Patch. So you can get Super Duper.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. It's current.
$29.
Marty?
What are you sending me, Peacock?
It's an interesting picture. It was on this morning. On the news, somebody stole 10 guns from somebody's house in Cape Coral and put a tire on it. It was alarming. I had to back up my TV
You got to.
to see what the guy had said.
$10,000 guns. 10,000 guns stolen from home and week. Okay.
But it was 10 guns. And I called him and I said, because the guy said he only had 2,300 rounds of ammunition.
All right. Other questions before we break? Jim.
I just want to point out that in talking about moving my iTunes to an external hard drive, I have the Marty Dorio dual hard drive approach, and I back up the external hard drive with another external hard drive using Super that Jerry was talking about.
I do that too.
Yeah. All you have to do is use all your music once.
That's right.
You will become a backup believer.
The other advantage of using iTunes Match, by the way, which is I discovered this by accident. Once you put your music with iTunes, then when you want to download it all, because you want to terminate it, you get higher quality downloads than you sent up. So, you know, some of the old music was 64 bits a second or something. Now all of the new stuff is ACC. It's all the Apple format. It's 256K. So you get much higher quality downloads than you sent up there. So it's sort of a fun thing. I think we're.
You still want to get to your
I have 3 chatters here. Let's see what the chatters are. Aha. So you can ask a question. Is this how you ask a question? Can you search Time Machine for a specific file name? Yes, I think so. I think that's the answer. Do my questions show up on your screen? Apparently your screen questions come when I look. Sorry, I'm just saying. See, this is to me privately, but this was to everyone, so.
So it doesn't automatically show up.
Yeah, well, it does. It's been blinking up here. This little guy. This has been blinking. I think there's a way to leave it open, but if Eckert were here, he'd be able to tell me that. So anyway, we've been recording this whole thing for these folks here. Let's see who's here. For Ed and Cheetah, and that's me, right? So there's our Detroit. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. And we're going to sign off now. And thank you all very much. We'll do this again.